Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on January the 10th, 2023. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and the one who helped me ring in the new year.
Caffeine Rage? No, I didn't.
Well, on the show, we're ringing in the new year now by discussing our December Game Club 2 weeks into January, which was Titanfall 2.
Hey, at least we're not as bad as Scott the Was.
Yeah. I don't know who that is. You'll have to explain that in a moment.
YouTuber that released his Christmas episode like 3 days ago.
Ah, I see.
I need to absolutely love him, what can I say?
I'll have to look him up. Also, on today's show, we will be going over our next Game Club game for January. Sony reveals the PlayStation 5's accessibility controller, and there is a new MechWarrior single-player game for PC and console in development. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Happy New Year, Rage.
Happy New Year, like a week and a half in.
Yeah, also this isn't the first time that we've talked, and even if today was the first time we talked, this obviously wouldn't be the first things that we said to each other.
No, we've just sat here in awkward silence the entire time.
Yeah, mostly my fault. Like
you could shut up.
True. Unless I'm tired, unless I fall asleep. That's how you get me to shut up. I fall asleep. But yeah.
No, then you just snore.
Yeah, sometimes. Katie is definitely the worst snorer in my house. Which you would not think by looking at her, but she is. She is a terrible snorer. Sometimes
it sounds like she's pretty good at it from what you say.
You know what? You're right. She's an excellent snorer. Very loud. But like looking at the two of us, you would look at my fat ass and be like, oh yeah, you definitely snore. But no, Katie snores horribly. But hi, sweetheart, I love you. You don't listen to the show. I could say literally anything I wanted about you, and you would never know unless one of them told you. But it's no secret. I tell her to her face that she snores really badly, and she has accepted it. But yes, dear listeners, you listened to Franken episodes for 2 weeks. One of those was unintentional. One was intentional. Originally, this was going to be a Franken episode, but my flight home from Colorado had to be earlier. It got rescheduled or canceled, whatever. And so we scheduled an earlier flight back from visiting my in-laws.
Earlier trebuchet.
Yeah. We flew Southwest, and, you know, most airlines suck, honestly. And Southwest has many, many problems, but Southwest does do one thing that's pretty good, which is that you can do checked bags at no additional cost. I'm sure they build it in there somewhere. I'm sure you're paying for it, and they hide it, but it still works out to be cheaper than other airlines without going super hardcore budget. Yeah, you know, Frontier, JetBlue, that kind of thing. So, but Southwest had a big fucky wucky, and when that big winter storm front blew across the U.S. At this point, like 3 weeks ago now, they had to cancel something like 3,000 flights on their own. And kind of they were trying to make up for that by rescheduling and combining and shuffling flights around. So when we came back from visiting my in-laws, we had to come back early. So you still got 2 Franken episodes instead of 3. But if there hadn't been some stuff on your end, we would have actually done the December Game Club episode.
Yeah, I had the niece stay over for a couple of days and found out about it that Saturday. That was most likely. Sunday was the definite, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, so, which was perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, family stuff, right?
Absolutely. But we're back. I'm going to stop rambling about all of this because you probably are tired of hearing of it.
I mean, we still got the same exact number of freaking episodes that we planned for.
We did. They just didn't happen exactly the way we planned for them to. But could be way worse. There could be way worse reasons for Franken content or whatever.
Yeah, it could be way worse. This could be a video podcast.
This could be a video podcast. Although, I'm painting right now. That's become my new thing while we record, is that I paint. Instead of like just sitting here staring at my computer or wandering off to Twitter or whatever to yell into the void. It makes me feel a lot better to paint than to yell into the void. But miniature painting is really popular on Twitch. I'm not going to do it. Fuck that. This is my private time with my best friend to share with our audience while I paint minis, but I'm not just going to like go on Twitch and stream that. I'm painting narwhals right now. That's my thing, is narwhals. I got derailed again. I was going to say, hey, Rach, why don't we go talk about Gameclub? You want to go talk about Gameclub?
Sure.
Okay. So Gameclub.
Okay, Bob Ross.
I do have my Hut from Star Wars Bob Ross figure that I'm painting right now after the narwhals. Like, it's the two narwhals and then
You need the Bob Ross Chia pet.
Chia.
So,
Anyway.
since we got off the rails again.
Yeah, anyways, for the uninitiated, if you happen to be uninitiated at this point, Gameclub is designed for Rage and I and any participating members in the audience who want to play the same game at the same time and then talk about it on the show. We do play a lot more of the same games than we used to, but Gameclub is more specific. We pick these games out in advance for lots of reasons. And for December, we picked Titanfall 2. We picked it for two reasons. One, it's shorter. The single player campaign is shorter, and we knew December was going to be a crunched month with Christmas and everything going on. But two, neither of us had played it before. Sometimes one or even both of us had played the games before, but neither of us had played this, and we have heard for years how good and innovative of a first-person shooter Titanfall and Titanfall 2 were for its time. And so this is one of those things of like, okay, let's see, one, does the game seem to play well in year of our Lord, current year? And two...
This would be past year.
Right, true. And two, how well does it, in this case, live up to the hype and the expectations? Gameclub is full of spoilers, and since this was a single-player game, there will be spoilers. Although the story is interesting, there are some interesting characters and some interesting situations. It is kind of generic as far as action shooter stories go.
I mean, it's not as generic as like a Call of Duty story, but
no,
or I guess I should say Battlefield, because Call of Duty, it's more like generic after you took the LSD.
Yeah. So, broad strokes, right off the top of your head, or right off the jump, did you like it all the way through, from start to finish? Did you like the game?
For the most part. There were sections that frustrated me, but that's more akin to first-person platforming areas than anything else. And my kind of broad strokes is that the Titanfall, like universe, world, whatever, is an incredibly interesting world that's wasted on a multiplayer-focused game.
Yes. For anyone who isn't aware, Titanfall 1 was multiplayer only. It had this sort of campaign multiplayer mode where that there was a small amount of story dotted between something like 8 or 10 different missions, and you would play one side or the other. There's two sides to this war, the Frontier Militia and the, what is it, IMF?
IMC or something like that.
Yeah, which is kind of like...
evil McBad guys.
Yeah, evil McBad corporation guys who run space. And the most of the main characters that we see as like our at least two of the antagonists from the mercenary team are in the first game.
Yeah, Ginyu Force.
You're right. Your commander, not the captain who dies, spoilers, in the first mission, but the fleet commander. I can't remember her name.
Sarah something.
Yeah, it's been just long enough for me that I can't remember character names, other than your character who's named Cooper, and then BT, which is your Titan AI. Mm-hmm. But they're both prominent,
Sarah Briggs.
Yeah, they're both quote unquote prominent characters in the first game, as in they have lines over the comms based on whether or not you win or lose the missions in the first one's multiplayer campaign mode. But I mean, that's it. That's as far as the story goes in the first game. Otherwise, it just sets up a really interesting universe. and then Titanfall 2 actually gives you something to do with. And I do agree. I feel like this universe is largely wasted. There are the two console games, which I guess did come to PC, and then there is the mobile game, which is a Clash Royale style game where you have cards with costs and you drop them in over the course of the game and you're trying to take out the opponent's leader. I think there was a book and some comics, like some tie-in comics or something that were released. Although honestly, so many games do little tie-ins like that, I could be mixing this up with another game. But that's it. There have been no other games released to date, although there is a third one that was announced and is in development right now.
Personally.
Yeah. And I think that the Titanfall universe would be a really good setting for a real-time strategy game. But we'll, I guess, come to why I think that over the course of time. I do agree with your point that the universe is largely wasted. The background setting for the universe is, again, generic.
Honestly, I would like to see even dropping the multiplayer is probably a death sentence these days, but less emphasis on the multiplayer, or hell, make it a co-op thing, and do a story-based first-person shooter story.
Yeah. The universe in setting or the universe in question, just to kind of give you guys listening a primer if you don't know, generic space evil corporation, Weyland-Yutani. This game's Weyland-Yutani basically colonized space and is in control of everything once you get far enough past sort of the Earth-controlled regions of space. They provided support to all of the outer colonies for a long time, and then they withdrew their support to tax them because they were, according to the corporation, not carrying their fair share. The frontier colonies didn't like this. They banded together and created their own militia forces and started fighting back. And because of the complexities of warfare, which I do kind of like this, the fact that they're fighting on their home turf and they don't have these ridiculous supply chains to maintain, they're able to win because they can easily replace, relatively speaking, they can easily replace their losses, whereas the IMF or IMC has to wait for years to get reinforcements shipped from their inter-colony manufacturing facilities, because we're talking distances of, hundreds of light years. And so Titanfall 2 picks up several years past, I think it says in the opening crawl it's 15 years, although it might have been 5 years. There's a 5 involved. After the end of Titanfall 1, the war has been progressing. The militia is slowly but surely winning because of this reason, because it's easier for them to replace their losses on home turf. Mm-hmm. And the IMC is starting to go, super evil bad guy. Well, shit, we can't do it with good tactics and good soldiering. Let's build a super weapon.
Yeah, time to destroy some planets.
Yep. So they build basically the Death Star. I mean, it's not
quite the Death Star. The idea is that it's essentially taking space and kind of flicking it so matter goes poof.
Yeah. But, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's a giant space gun that blows up planets.
Mm-hmm. But it's planet side. That's the kind of the interesting thing. It's more like the Death Star analog in the sequel trilogy in Star Wars.
Starkiller Base.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't think of the name of it because, honestly, about 2/3 of the way through the first movie, I realized I've seen this movie before. It was released in the 70s.
Yeah, Starkiller Base is what it is in the sequel trilogy. But the story itself takes place as you being Cooper, who is played by Matt Mercer. I didn't realize that at first. I'm not as much of a Matt Mercer fan. I don't watch Critical Role, but in the credits, it's Matt Mercer who plays Cooper, which is your protagonist. Cooper is an infantryman, just a rifleman, but he shows potential as a possibly talented mech pilot. They're just called pilots in Titanfall. And so one of the commanding officers, Soldier McDadface, I can't remember his name either, See, very generic story.
Lanamosa?
I'm sorry, what? Gesundheit?
Lastimosa?
Lastimosa?
Yeah,
It's the guy who dies. Is that his name?
I think so.
Okay, well he's one of the Titan commanders for your pilots, who's in charge of this recon force. He sees you as having potential, and he's training you to be a pilot. So
Completely off the books, though.
the game opens up with you doing sim training, and that serves as the tutorial for the movement system and kind of basic controls. And then you get dropped planet side to do a battle. The first 5, maybe 10 minutes of that first mission, you are just a regular infantryman, which feels like playing Call of Duty, which I think is very interesting. It's slow, it's deliberate, it handles well, it's not bad, but it's such a sharp contrast both to what you were doing in the tutorial and what you're going to do for the rest of the game. But it is the game mechanics are pretty solidly designed, because even that section of the game is decently enjoyable and can be, I think, replayed, and you can just test out a few different things there. But then the bad guys, the Ginyu Force, as you called them, gets introduced.
I mean, it's not wrong. The
No.
Apex Predators.
Yeah.
Well, this is the same developer that's doing Apex Legends. So, all right.
Yeah. But they kill your commanding officer. They nearly destroy the mech, BT. You almost die. You get saved. The mech saves you. He becomes your mech. And then you go through the rest of the campaign where you track down the super weapon, and ultimately stop it.
And become best friends with your new 25-foot tall friend.
Yep, your new 25-foot tall, 40-ton mech, BT. The intro has the most characterization. After that, there are story beats that it pulls. There's one level in particular that I think we'll talk about. I guess we could go level by level and talk about them a little bit. I'm thinking about the time travel level. Spoilers. Yeah. Time travel. That's probably the level that gets the most characterization for the rest of the game until the end. The most stuff story-wise happens in that level. But it does a kind of a second tutorial where it eases you back into the jump mechanics, I guess, if you either skipped the first tutorial or really struggled through it. And
I am grateful that they had the ghosts, because that first map, that first area, it might just be the fact that first time playing it, I didn't play Titanfall 1, so there was a lot of times that my dumb brain forgot, oh yeah, I could wall run 60, 70 feet and make that get over there, instead of, how the fuck am I supposed to do that?
Let's talk about that for a minute. Titanfall's party piece is its movement system. Probably the easiest way to describe it is like
Brink on steroids.
Yeah.
Parkour on steroids. If you'd ever played Brink, it's takes. Think of the biggest montage of parkour off YouTube, and then multiply it by 10. People wall running, easily 100 feet, double jumping, going in between walls, sliding, building up momentum. It has kind of a tribes system in it as well, where as you perform these advanced acrobatics, two things happen. One, you obviously get harder to hit, especially in single player, where it kind of gives a negative aim multiplier to the bots. But also, you start building up more and more speed, and you're maintaining that speed. And there's certain areas in the single player where, if you're not very good at chaining together these different movement styles, it is a lot harder than it would be otherwise. It's not impossible, but it does make it a lot harder on you.
To be clear, are you still talking about Brink, or have you switched back to talking about Titanfall?
I was talking about Titanfall. I was just
Okay,
using Brink as a kind of a jumping off point.
got you. I'm tracking. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah. But the movement system really is its party piece. As far as game mechanics go, its weapons are fine. The different types of guns and the way they function is fine. They all make sense. Um, the abilities that you get are fine. That's all functionable. The movement system really is the party piece. And if the movement doesn't work, like so much of the game is designed around this movement system. Every level after, I mean, really also including the first one, but with the
Yeah,
first one being the one that,
after essentially the prologue, the
yeah,
pro okay, sim prologue. Then you have a short time where you're soldier, big soldier face.
right,
Then after you beat BT and you're given the link from his former pilot with his dying breath, he you get a bit of time where the suit is getting used to you essentially, and it's slowly unlocking the different mechanics of the movement system that you practiced in the uh, holographic zone.
yeah,
But yeah, like I said, I wasn't used to it yet, so there was kind of that moment of, well, where am I supposed to go? Ignoring the fact that okay, wall run up, double jump across, right?
yeah.
But
But
that one's more on me, and I think it's just maybe dropping you in a little too much at the very beginning.
yeah, the first level, I will say I'm not quite finished with my point, but I will say that first level one feels much more open than the rest of the game actually is. I don't know if that's the level design, if that's intentional or what, but the first level feels very open, which is confusing in and of itself. I struggled with that a little bit at the beginning. And then yeah, you're still getting used to the system. But the point that I'm making, I'm gonna finish this up and then we can move on, is that the game really focuses on that movement system, and every level for the rest of the game is designed to add more and more complexity to it. And if it like fucks that up, then the game is ruined. And I don't think that it ever fucks it up. The first level's a little confusing, and then there's one other level that I had kind of a hard time with for a
There
minute.
was kind of two for me, but it's more missing a hallway essentially.
Yeah. So, yes.
Since we're on the first level, this is also where it introduces you to the collectibles. Can we talk about the collectibles real quick?
Sure. I didn't get very many of them. I didn't actively look for them. Did you get a
Yeah,
bunch of
well,
them?
I only got a few, and I looked into what they actually do, and they're pointless. It's kind of the idea of it is you're finding pilots' helmets that are all over the place for an achievement or a handful of achievements, and that's it. It's not like Halo where you can find the skulls, for different types of multipliers and modes,
Yeah.
and it just feels like they missed the point of a collectible system of having some sort of interesting like lore or backstory
Or
because
interesting gameplay
mhm,
mechanic, because the
yeah
Halo collectibles are very much gameplay focused. Getting
yeah
the skulls.
and the fact that it's also pilot helmets really feels like there should have been like an audio log or some sort of like backstory or expanded lore that tied into it that just never happens, and
Yeah.
it feels like a lot of like essentially the Titanfall universe a missed opportunity. And I know I'm ragging on it and it's a very minor thing in the game, but it's kind of uh, galling to me that they didn't do something with that. And I just wanted to get that out there before forgot about it. And level one, there are several times that right there on the path is a one of the helmets. So, all right.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, level one, I got the most in level one because it It drops 2, I think, or maybe 3 right in your path.
There's 3 total, and I think you come across 2 right away.
Yeah. I found maybe 6 or 7 collectibles for the whole game, and every level has got 2 or 3 in it, so.
A couple of the last ones have like 8 or 9.
Okay. I didn't realize there were that many in some of them. I wasn't looking.
The one that you are on the satellite dish, there's 9 on that level.
Gotcha.
And the only reason why I know that is I took a wrong turn there and found one, and it said one of that 9. Well, okay.
Let's we've been talking about this for like 15 or 20 minutes now. And while we have passingly said the word mech several times, we haven't talked about that at all, which I think is pretty interesting for the game because it's very sparing with how much mech time you get.
At least in the single player.
Yeah, right up until the end of the game. I mean, there are sections where you get to use the mech. The mech feels special. I think they hit...
It feels okay to me. And I think it's just the fact that whenever you're usually in the mech, it's either to get through a environmental obstacle or you're fighting other mechs or an otherwise overwhelming force. So you never feel significantly overpowered. And to me, that kind of took away a little bit of it where, I want that moment of, feeling God mode to be brought back down. And I just never got that with the mech.
Interestingly, I felt overpowered as fuck every time they give you the mech, except for the final section of the game where that you actually do Titanfall and assault the base. Mm-hmm. But then it's all the mechs. You drop with all the mechs and you spend...
Oh, I didn't really care for that part because I kept having my teammates running in front of me.
That's the area of the game I had the most difficulty with. I had to redo that several times because I kept dying. But every other time that you're in the Titan, I won't say almost every other time that you're in the Titan, I felt special and overpowered. I just played on normal difficulty.
Yeah, I played on normal as well, and it just didn't click that for me.
The way that it works, at least in the single player, is that you've got a number of loadouts. The BT, I forget what class of Titan it is, but
Vanguard.
The Vanguard Titan is special in the lore because most of the Titans are designed as is, and there's a small amount of interchangeability they can have. But if you get a Titan that's equipped with missiles and machine guns, that's pretty much what you got. But the Vanguard Titan is designed to be modular so that it can accept different loadouts and tackle different mission parameters on a single platform. And so throughout the game, you unlock
Which makes you wonder why they don't do that for more of them, but
Yeah. But throughout the game, you unlock different loadouts for your Titan. In single player, you cannot mix and match. You get... you can choose between the loadouts, but you can't pick specific things. In multiplayer, that's different. You can design your own loadouts.
Yeah, which I actually missed one of the loadouts in single player.
Really? I didn't know you could miss one of them.
I missed the Ion, which I think is in Affected Calls.
Yeah, that's the laser one, right?
Well, I don't remember.
Wait, you didn't have it. The Ion's the laser one. Honestly, the Ion was my least favorite.
The one I kind of went with was the semi-auto machine gun until right there that last assault that you hit 3 times, you get a lock on and throw a burst of missiles.
Yeah, I went with the one that had the missile launcher, like as its primary weapon. It would either shoot 3 or 4 rockets at a time, or you could hold down the left trigger and it had an alternate fire where it fired its missiles and in a stream, more rapid fire style. But that one had a flight mode that you could activate for a little while. And so it had some more mobility options.
I'd find the sniper to be useful sometimes.
The Gauss rifle. Yeah. It's powerful. I used it a few times, yeah, but typically I would stick with that missile launcher one. But anyways, I did feel like the Titan was pretty special because of like, sort of the lore behind them, and at least playing on normal difficulty until you get to the end of the game and the boss fights, you are much more powerful than all the normal Titans on the field. And you can just absolutely wipe the floor with the infantry units. Literally, you can like run over them and squish them. And then
Well, there was one point that BT was talking about me shooting them once again at the satellite level, and he was talking about how my frame would make a much more effective weapon against these than shooting them individually. Never mind the fact that I was shooting them with an explosive bullet, but right.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting, though. I mean, I guess that just speaks to either our different interests in the mechs itself, because I mean, that could be it for me. It also could be that, I mean, it does play, I won't say it controls drastically differently, but you are much more limited in your mobility compared to being a pilot. And I think that juxtaposition is on purpose. Like, the Titans still feel pretty mobile. It's not like you're super duper lumbering and slow or
it's
whatever.
Not MechWarrior.
No, but it's also
it's not mecha either.
No, it's not mecha. So you're still not as fast or maneuverable as you are on foot. They don't feel as satisfying to pilot as it is to run around on levels. The weapons, we each had a favorite loadout, and I think most people will have a favorite loadout. So you can't do as much with that as you can mixing and matching the different weapons as a pilot. So I think about 20% of the game is in the Titan, and then the rest of it is on foot. I think that ratio works pretty well, but obviously that's...
I do appreciate them not throwing you in the Titan all the time. But like I said, there was only like certain areas that really did feel special to me. Otherwise, it was this isn't bad, but all right.
Yeah. So, before we talk about the time travel level.
Yeah, because the next like couple levels are just kind of like introductions. I have the level list. So, Blood and Rust is essentially where you steal a radio from. You have your first really big boss fight, which kind of decimated him.
Yeah. You're fighting through basically like a big waste management plant. There's more to it than that, but that it feels very much just like you're fighting through the sewers.
Yeah.
Which it was fine. That level was fine.
Yeah, then Into the Abyss, which all right.
Is that the factory?
No, the factory is after Affected Cause.
Okay.
It doesn't bode well for some of the level design, huh?
The levels, I remember...
They're good. It's just... It's where they're so disconnected, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're very clearly... I think the best way to explain them is they're like sort of amusement park rides, most of them, to showcase the movement system in some way, or to teach you something for the rest of the game.
So Into the Abyss, that's... the factory, so it's right before Affected Cause. It's a. Do you want to talk about that one first, since that's next up?
Which level is that though?
That's the one where you're in the dome at one point.
Oh, okay.
Where you're going through and they're building these large essentially panels with different things on them.
That's what I'm calling the factory level.
Yeah.
That one was excellent. I was...
I found it interesting. There was a couple of jumps that I had trouble with, but I think it was not chaining them together correctly.
So what this level...
Or me approaching it incorrectly. OSHA needs to take a look at this level, though, because this place is as a death trap as Iron Production is for me in Satisfactory.
Yeah. What this level is they're building prefab structures for, I think, for terraforming. Although
It was
the
training simulations.
well, yes, the mercenary lady is using them that way, but I
Hmm.
think that this is supposed to be for some type of terraforming facility, or perhaps to like send these prefab structures out for colonization efforts. And she has turned the factory into basically a playground where that she can run tests and simulations on people, combat tests specifically. But I mean, you're moving through this,
Prisoners.
yeah, prisoners. And you're moving through this factory complex, and it's a really interesting idea. And you sometimes you have to move along or with the things that are being produced. And so, again, it's a way to showcase the movement system. The platforms will turn vertical, or they'll go on their side, or they'll flip over, or they'll maneuver in such a way to give you a better platform to jump off of or between. Sometimes you'll have to very quickly jump off and use the double jump to avoid getting crushed by something. And there are enemies fighting you the whole way. Um, Many of
Yeah,
them, though, can just be bypassed. You can just use your movement to,
or cloak.
yeah, or cloak. Um, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
a
did have.
mechanic. You can turn invisible for like 3 seconds to get out of a sticky situation.
Yeah, which we completely neglected to talk about because I pretty much just used it if I took a big hit to, to turn a corner and wipe the raspberry jam off of the camera
Yeah, same.
because regenerating health. Uh, this was one level I had trouble with, but it wasn't for. Okay, I failed a jump and it put me back at a checkpoint where there was an enemy shooting at me. The checkpoint system is sometimes a dick in this game. And I would load up the game and I'd have like half health. Or, obviously, there's no health bar, but, in these, Call of Duty-esque shooters where, as you get shot, you get like the red ring of death like you're a fucking Xbox.
Yeah, you're overheating. Chill out, dude.
Guy
You're
coming in,
overheating.
and there's like, it respawned me with the enemy behind me shooting at me.
Yeah,
I don't know why, because I killed that enemy before I. Well, what happened was there was like it was a double jump onto a wall, run, double jump across, and there was a few times in this game that I would swear I made the correct inputs and be like, okay, well, I'm just going to face plant into this and slide off. I'm not sure if just me sucking at it, if it's just the game is the movement system is more designed for a controller versus mouse and keyboard, because there's a couple areas where there was some very like quick movements going back and forth that feels like it needed more nuance than what the digital control of a keyboard would really lend itself to.
I have to say I did play the whole game keyboard and mouse without some of these same
Or
problems.
I'll just suck at first person platforming, which is also a possibility.
Yeah,
But yeah,
possibly.
this level I had trouble with because a checkpoint dicked me over.
Yeah, but I did really like what is the level called?
Into the abyss.
Into the Abyss, the factory level. That's how I think of it, as
Yeah,
the
this is
factory
where
level.
BT gets captured by a robotic arm, and his log in between loading sections of the map is starting attempt 37 to free myself. Attempt failed. Starting attempt 38. Attempt failed.
And it's like redefining what a shortcut is, which I thought that was cute.
Yeah, this was. You're still trying to catch up with the commanding officer to carry out the mission of finding out what the fuck is going on here.
Very important that finding out what the fuck is going on. But okay, what's the next level? Is that
That's affecting calls. That's the time travel level.
so? This is the level that everyone talks about when they do reviews of this game.
Yeah, this is the one that I didn't know about coming in because I never really looked into it.
Okay. So, I mean, for effect and cause, you get to a research facility, and as part of the Titanfall lore, there are time anomalies that exist that certain like high energy levels can cause, and I mean, this is something that happened like off screen. I looked this up because I didn't remember it from the first campaign, and like this is all stuff that happened off screen. The frontier colonies discovered how to manipulate those fields. They couldn't create them, but if they were inside of them, they could manipulate them. So they designed this device, which is basically a toggle. Like you get one at the beginning of this level.
Yeah, well, it's probably 10 minutes into it. So you catch up to Anderson, or at least, Anderson's corpse. Turns out he's dead, by the way.
Yep.
And he's also, stuck in the ceiling. You take his helmet off, take it back to BT for him to analyze, and you find out what Anderson's mission was, because the entire time you're trying to catch up to him to essentially regroup, because the fleet got jumped and basically scattered the forces, and through the magic of being the protagonist, you're the only one that survived, right?
Right, and he's next up the chain of command.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to link up with him to get new orders, basically continue the mission.
And you're basically taking over Anderson's mission at this point, because his mission was to infiltrate this facility and figure out what's going on. And he's given this device that they somehow figured out, how to right
To manipulate time,
right? And a handy watch.
Yep. And it allows you to go between the present time and then a specific time in the past. And you have to use this mechanic in order to make your way through the facility, follow the commander's footsteps, figure out what the mission was. And
also, calls the issue that caused the issue that the facility gets blown up in the first place.
Yeah, one of those weird, one of those time travel loop things where you cause the effect,
or in a way Anderson did. You kind of finished it, or right?
Yeah, it's a little unclear on that.
Little wibbly wobbly, tommy wimey.
Yeah, which is okay. But the reason that everyone talks about it is at least in all of the previous podcasts and reviews and stuff that I have heard on this, is having to mid jump, so mid parkour, swapping back and forth between the timelines, because in one of the timelines either the structure is not there that you need, or it is there but it's on fire, or something like that. And also using that for combat, because you wind up fighting the security forces in the past, and then animals that have started overrunning the facility in the present, plus remaining security bots. And so when you transition back and forth between time, you can kind of buy yourself a reprieve. And time stops in whichever time period you're not in. So you can use that to get the jump on opponents, or if
this is also one of those times that the gimmick replaces your something. In this case, your invisibility.
Yeah. And so I found that really interesting. I found it compelling gameplay, especially the fighting more so than the parkour aspect. That was interesting and that was fun. And a couple of parts I had to take a couple of tries at because I got my timing off or something, and so I would swap back.
That goddamn ventilation shaft where you have to swap back and forth like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, and you're speeding up all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I get my timing off and I'd have to retry or something. But for the most part, like, that was fine. But I thought the combat scenes were that in the past you were fighting the security forces, and in the present you were fighting those, like, I don't know, wolf lizard things. Were really interesting because they had 2 different fighting styles. The animals were very aggressive, charging towards you, whereas the soldiers used more, obviously kind of the shootery mechanics. And you couldn't really stay put in either one, and you'd constantly be moving around and swapping forks between times. I found that a really interesting combat mechanic. Plus, that's where you get most of the story dumped on you, which is the rest of the story is that the IMC has discovered this ancient technology. They don't know
I'm
if
not
it's
saying it's no. They said it's aliens.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they said alien technology.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that or misheard or something. But okay, so they find ancient alien technology that they believe they can turn into a weapon to destroy planets. And you get essentially the backstory on this weapon and some information about the IMC, and then you're trying to either stop it or figure out how you can track it so that you can stop it in the present. And then as a result, you wind up causing the explosion that destroys the facility in the first place.
Whoops.
Yeah, whoops. But it's a very interesting level. I can see why, especially at the time, people talked about it so much. I think Dishonored 2 did something like this as well.
Yeah, I know that there's a time travel level in that one that got high praise, but I guess I was out of the loop or the time loop for this one.
Well, the two of those, the Dishonored one and the Titanfall one, both got compared and contrasted a lot because the games came out at relatively the same time, and they would have both been in development at the same time. But they got compared and contrasted a lot. And, you know, some people said Titanfall was better, some people said Dishonored was better, but that it was an interesting idea. And I can't think of another game where it gets done other than those two. And it might be in other games and I just don't realize it, but I can't think of another one.
Yeah, it's not a mechanic that gets used too often, at least in like this. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that. Damn it! I was trying to think of the name of the game, but it's not quite the same way it's done anyway. There was one where there was a little bit of time travel, but nothing like that. So, but now I'm blanking on the name of the game anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I can definitely see why this gets a lot of talk, especially like that end sequence where you're suddenly in the opening credits to Deadpool, where time has stopped, right?
Yeah. Our time has just stopped. But yeah. Then what's the next level?
Let's see. The next level is the beacon, which is the satellite dish. So basically, you scan the big bad MacGuffin weapon, or sorry, the weapon's MacGuffin, to be able to figure out where the real MacGuffin is, because oops, kind of blew up the prototype. Which your presence there made them basically start their test for some reason and not do any of the safety protocols. I know, big evil corporation, don't need to question it, right?
Yeah.
So you're basically in the plot of Star Wars at this point, and you're trying to get the plans to the Death Star to the Republic, right?
That's literally what you're doing. Yeah, you're trying to transmit these plans to the fleet so that they can come.
It's an old trope, but it checks out.
Yeah.
So you come across this interstellar beacon that would hopefully contact any fleet that survived the ambush, or failing that, be able to transmit to Harmony, which is the home world. Which there's a big leap of logic here that they're assuming that they're going to go after Harmony. I mean, to be fair, they are going after Harmony, but right.
But yeah, there's no evidence that points to that. They just assume, oh, they're going to attack this specific planet.
Yeah, they're going to attack our home world. I mean, sure, but yeah, right.
They have a lot of other planets too. Like, this is a multi-planet, multi-solar system coalition.
But right. So, you come across the facility. It's being attacked. You thwart the attackers. You are sent into the bowels of the facility to get the MacGuffin for this level, the ARC tool. to be able to one kickstart the generator, and grow a thumb out your forehead with all the radiation, right?
Hey, yep, I
and,
get that joke.
and some Titanfall cancer, or would that be Call of Duty?
Probably, maybe both.
And then, uh, uh, okay, so when they're doing that big, counting up the power, it's like, and you're just standing there with the with the satellite dish perfectly in frame in the window, and the other, doing the slow count out of the power levels. It's like, okay,
What's
is
gonna
the
go wrong?
is the entire thing going to explode? Is it going to be like a little poof? Because they have that framed too perfectly, right?
Yeah,
And it gets to 90%, and the magic smoke comes out. So then you're sent up the satellite dish. And this is kind of the first time that you're given the fastball special as well. Where BT picks you up and
or
throws you.
BT picks you up and throws you.
Which they name it the fastball later on in the story, but you kind of have a quip earlier in affecting calls where he throws this like lamppost or something into this giant hole in the building, and you zip line up.
Yeah, and you quip like, oh, maybe next time you could throw me.
Understood. Right.
Yeah. So then he does.
Several times actually.
Several times, yeah.
And this is one where I got kind of turned around for a while because fights in this area could get very clusterfucky with just how many enemies you're facing in such a kind of enclosed space. So I tried to run past them and kind of went into another group of enemies, and then kind of ping pong back and forth between those, and missed like this missed the fact that, oh, there's another crane up above me, right?
Yeah. Well, you can also in this section use the art tool to activate security droids to help you.
Yeah, I got the Pod Piper and Rebel Army achievements.
Yeah, me too.
Which that was fun.
Yeah.
Although they didn't do jack shit, but
this was another pretty memorable parkour section to me.
Yeah.
But the overall level here was kind of like the story progression is like, all right, I guess I'll go fix the thing since I'm the only one who can do it. And then you did some cool parkour. Yeah. But yeah, that's that. You fix it. There's a cool scene where BT saves you as you are about to fall to your death. Pretty cool little first person thing where he grabs you like as you're dangling over the edge. Because even though you have a jetpack, it's more of like a boost as opposed to a constant
or a double jump.
Yeah.
BT was nice, and he did put in the requisite forms to get me some new underwear.
Yeah.
So the next supply drop in a few weeks, can have a new pair of tidy whities, but just one because it's BT, right?
Yeah. Prepare for Titanfall. They only say that once in the campaign. Prepare for Titanfall.
Yeah,
that was like a huge that's the multiplayer tagline.
Yeah. Well, it's also at the beginning, but it's not you that's taking part in it.
Right. Okay. What's the next level?
Let's see. Next up is Trial by Fire, which that's the one with all the pipe work.
Okay. I don't remember anything super special about that one, honestly.
It was kind of a forgettable one, especially after the previous several. It's the first one where you're with the commander.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it's your first Titanfall. It's the one with all the other mechs as well.
Oh, okay, that's that level. Okay. Yeah, I didn't like that level very much. And it's the one that focuses exclusively, at least in the beginning, on doing a big Titanfall battle. and I didn't like that very much. The spectacle's pretty cool for a little bit, and then it just kind of
Oh,
wanes.
for me, it's I'm fighting someone and somebody gets in my way. One of my allies.
Yeah.
It's I just popped a big ability and my big salvo rockets just bounces off their rear side. Like, gee, thanks. Which is nice that they don't blow you up, but at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It's just it feels like the level's too cramped for the amount of friendlies that you have.
Yeah, it starts out in a
This is where you're rushing to the ship to get the arc core.
yeah, and the level starts out a little open. I'm not going to say open, but a little more open for that initial drop and fight, and then it's one big long corridor rush to the ship. Because you're
Which it
trying to
isn't
stop.
timed.
No,
So,
but it feels like you're being,
yeah.
you're not being timed, but it sets it up like you should be rushing as fast as you can.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, and then you get there, you're too late, the ship escapes, so then you chase after it, your fleet chases after their fleet, you
Yeah, which that's
fight.
actually the next level, but
Yeah. But you fight from ship to ship. There's some pretty cool stuff there. This level's pretty memorable. You do another fastball where you're thrown from one ship to another. That's pretty cool. I mean, obviously, you can't really miss. I mean, I suppose you could on purpose, but that's the spectacle to get you the next part of the level. So you can't exactly miss. But it still feels really cool. You get to do this section with a lot of other pilots. I mean, they're NPC pilots, but they are much more capable than any of the other NPCs that you fought with so far.
they're not as frustrating as the friendly Titans. I think mostly just the fact that they're a hell of a lot smaller because, right?
Yeah. So you do that. You board the ship, the main ship. You
get captured.
You do wind up getting captured after you fight a boss who's in a flying Titan. There's a pretty cool scene.
Yeah, he's the Australian Genji Force, right?
Yeah. But there's a pretty cool scene where you beat him, like you think you beat him, but you didn't. Viper, yeah, but you didn't actually beat him, and you're outside of your Titan, and you're outside of BT, and BT's beating the fuck out of him. But BT's also nearly getting killed, and BT like rips or smashes the cockpit off, and then you shoot the guy inside the cockpit and kill him.
Uh-huh.
That was a pretty good ending to a boss fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's only like two bosses that have some sort of like big like send off after you kill them. There's that one and the first one, Kane, where you take his helmet off and steal his radio. Which, opening up that cockpit, I wholly expected a jump scare there. Was I the only one there?
No, I thought that they might do a little bit of a jump scare, even if it was kind of a fake out where like an arm shoots out or something and then he dies.
Or he just like tumbles out of the cockpit or whatever. I completely expected them to pull something and they didn't. Which, thankful for, but right?
Yeah, me too. I'm glad they didn't. It feels cheap to do that in a game that's not explicitly a horror game.
Well, I don't like jump scares in general, but right?
No, I don't either. But if at least I know that there's a possibility going in, like I'm a little more prepared for it.
So you shit, now I'm blanking on how you actually get captured. Basically, BT's arm gets ripped off.
Yeah, so because Viper fucks up BT. Then you guys go inside the ship where the weapon is, the super weapon, and you retrieve it. You retrieve like the core that makes the weapon function, and then that's how you
put it in BT's cockpit.
Yeah.
To transport it out, and you get captured then.
Yep, that's how you get captured.
And is it Bill? No, it's Balder, the general guy. No, it's Bisk. The cutscene where He's about to shoot you if BT doesn't give up the core.
Yep, that's Bisk, who is the mercenary commander.
Mm-hmm. Uh, and you get this text from BT, trust me, and he
Yeah.
tries to kill him
Yep.
by faking him out.
And then he kills the other guy, doesn't he? He kills the lackeys.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good scene though. Then you get BT's memory core, and you escape the ship.
Well, you don't know that at the time. It's just like the emergency kit that's hidden in BT's head, or like the little there's this little canister, and you're told to take this middle cylinder, and you're given the smart pistol and the knife.
Which the smart pistol is the fucking goat.
Fucking overpowered, right?
It got super nerfed in Titanfall 2's multiplayer because it functions exactly like it does in the single player in the multiplayer of the first game.
Yeah.
It was intended to be used to clear NPC fodder because in the multiplayer there are NPCs that the regular soldiers and the robots and stuff that you get points for because it's several game modes are kind of like scored modes. And so the smart pistol was originally designed to clear infantry quickly, but I mean it can be used to kill players just as effectively. Because it could lock on to their head multiple times. And so you could get like 3 or 4 headshots with the smart pistol, which would kill players.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, yeah, it's overpowered as fuck, and it's beautiful because you're like sprinting as fast as you can to escape the ship, and you're just murdering NPCs.
Okay, this is going to sound like high praise or a weird connection, but it reminded me of the final section of Half-Life 2. Where you get the super gravity gun.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, the wheels are off, time to play, right?
Yeah,
and you're getting like 5 or 6, just instant kill headshots with the smart pistol. And at first, I just saw, I didn't know it was the smart pistol. I saw I had a gun that had 16 shots and didn't show any other ammo. I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, but you have infinite ammo during this section, and every time you reload, you get a new 16 shots.
Yeah.
Or however many shots it is.
I think it was 16 or 17 or something like that. And it's talking about, survive, sneak, hide, just get away.
Yeah.
Time to go murder spree.
Yep.
And the commander picks up BT's data core and sends down a new chassis that you install the data core in, and hey, BT gets a new body.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you just had this really touching death scene with him. And you get a new BT with a new loadout, the heavy weapon BT. The Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Which you need it for this section.
You do. It's a slog. It's you against an army.
Pretty much.
As you fight your way through the final gauntlet to get the super weapon again. And you get to the super weapon and I mean you're dead. You're fucked. But the mercenary captain has already been paid for the job. And so he doesn't kill you. He's like
he has this respect for you that, hey, you fucked up my company. You're pretty good, kid. And leaves his business card.
Yeah, he puts his business card on your window or on your cockpit window and then leaves. And the IMC general's like yelling at him. He's like, no, I already did my job. I don't work for free.
It wasn't in my contract.
Yeah, and then he leaves. And I'm like, I really like that, honestly. That feels very, to me, that feels very tabletop RPG.
And also kind of, a sequel hook.
Yeah, I agree. But so then, you and BT do stop the weapon as it's firing. BT sacrifices himself for real this time to save you as he destroys the weapon core. And then you have one final parkour section as you jump from, floating rock to floating rock in the middle of this anomaly until your ship picks you up. And then you warp away. And then the weapon explodes and it destroys the planet that you were on.
Oops.
Yeah. Whoopsie. And
Or
then
as
that's
TV Trips likes to call it, a negative space-time wedgie.
yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. But then you get the ending credits and you get a monologue and it kind of sets up some potential stuff for the sequel. You're gonna get a new Titan. You're officially a pilot now, blah blah blah.
And then there's the stinger.
Yeah, which is at the end, your helmet beeps out a Morse code message, which I looked it up. It says something like Cooper, are you there? Or something like that. And during the time travel mission, BT puts some
With AI
amount
code.
of his AI code in your helmet so you can communicate back and forth across time. And so BT seems to have survived.
Yeah, he pulled a data in Generations.
Yeah.
Or not Generations, but First Contact. Where, yeah, copied his code and he escaped.
Yeah. But it's that, and yeah, that's the end of the game.
Yeah,
The
the message is Jack, question mark.
Oh, okay, Jack, question mark. So the multiplayer is offline, it's dead. There is a tool, I forget what it's called, I looked it up, but there's a tool you can download that lets you create your own servers and you can still play multiplayer, but official multiplayer support is dead. Obviously, that tool only works on PC. You can still play multiplayer just with bots. I went in and I looked at some of the loadout stuff and messed with it a little bit, but I didn't play anymore. I'm just really not interested in playing the multiplayer mode, even against, even just against bots. I'm glad that exists so that you can play by yourself or that so you can play locally and still have a game, but I'm not really interested in that. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid game that I think holds up.
Yeah, it does make me wish it was a bit more fleshed out instead
Yeah.
of, having the levels basically be, okay, there's this one level, then suddenly, oh, well, we're 60 kilometers further down the road, right?
Yeah. I will say
it's very much the beats and highlights instead of the actual trip.
Yeah. I appreciate that though, as opposed to making it way too long. It took me 5 hours to beat it, start to finish. I think.
Yeah, my playtime, mind you, I did leave the game on a couple times to hit the bathroom and that sort of thing. It was 5 hours 47 minutes, so probably right there at 5.5.
Yeah, my playtime is, well, before I looked at the multiplayer a minute. My playtime was 5 hours and 7 minutes, so right around 5 hours for me.
And I'm probably being generous, but 5.5 hours feels about right.
And I think it could have done with maybe another 2 or 3 hours. Flesh out that single player campaign a little more, slow down a couple of things, or add some greater characterization to some of the characters. But overall, I'd rather have a tight 5-hour gameplay experience that I enjoyed as opposed to a 15 or a 20-hour slog. So, given that most games tend to do one or the other and not really hit that, that sweet spot, I prefer this. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty solid B+ game. I don't know if I'd go so far as to calling it an A-. I think the story's not long enough. There are some issues with,
and also it requires a backstory that's just not there. You're kind of thrown into the deep end lore-wise.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are some issues because the universe just isn't really fleshed out. There's a few times where the game is a little obtuse. The movement system is great, but there are a few times that it does kind of mess that up a little bit. And then
Checkpoint system really needed work.
I didn't have any major issues with the checkpoint system, but that could just be luck on my part.
Like I said, there was a couple times, well, one time in particular, where I had a checkpoint where an enemy was behind me shooting at me. Another time, just had bad luck with being in a weird spot, putting me where I had to basically pick up all my weapons again because I hit the checkpoint, changed weapons, went to do a jump, had a sniper shoot me in midair, which killed all my momentum for a series of jumps.
Yeah.
And it was, I had to figure out how to deal with the sniper, which, but yeah, it felt like checkpoints were a little random on what they would do. Most of the time, it was fine if especially if I, was starting for a new play session, or I got to a point where I needed some time because there was a couple times where some of the more high movement sections, it made me not motion sick, but a little queasy, and I would just put it down for a bit, and I'd come back, and the checkpoint would be fine. Did you get that, or was it just me being old?
No, I don't usually get motion sick in games. There have been a few, but generally speaking, I don't experience any motion sickness in games. I did not get any of that, but I could see how that someone could experience motion sickness with this,
Yeah,
as much like
especially
flying around as there is.
especially with the head bob in this game. I did look for a setting to turn that off, but I couldn't find it. I did expand the field of view a bit, and that helped. But those early sections, still getting used to it was a little tough for me.
Yeah, right out the gate, I set my FOV to I think 100. I'm not sure what the max is, but I set it at either 90 or
The
100.
max is actually really up there. I set it to 96. Went to set to 95, but even numbers for some weird reason. And that was, not even halfway up the scale. I think you could go like full, see 360 degrees behind you.
Yeah, I set mine at 100 then. I was pretty sure it's 100. From jump, but yeah, there's I don't think there's anything majorly wrong with this game. There are
Yeah,
minor
it's more of a
things
wish
here or
list.
there. Yeah, and all of those things are enough to kind of drag it down to, like I said, a B minus. But I mean,
Or B
it's
plus.
or yeah, sorry, B plus. Um, Overall, I think it's worth anybody's time to play. I mean, if you have Game Pass and you've never played it, play it. If you don't have Game Pass and you don't want to get Game Pass, whenever you see it on sale for like $5 or $10, buy it. As long as you like, I mean, if you don't like shooters at all, then you probably won't like it. But
Mm.
you know, it's
I
a
mean,
solid game.
it's a solid time. I'm not sure just how often it goes on sale or how deep it goes on sale, since it is tied to EA's fuckery. So there is that consideration as well.
Yeah. And a lot of times for Gameclub, like especially any game that has a story, it's like, well, if you listen to Gameclub, you kind of fucked up on like having stuff spoiled. But because this game is so mechanics focused on that movement mechanic, you can listen to us talk about it all day and you won't understand until you play it. So there's still something to be gained of value, even if you listen to the whole thing and heard us spoil, the main points of the story. Which, while generic, it's still.
Oh, the sale price definitely is worth it. I went to, is there any deal to check out the history? It goes on sale for $4.
Oh yeah, 100% worth $4.
Yeah, let's put it this way: in the last year, it's gone on sale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times for $4 each time. And before that, the historic low was about 5.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure I'd seen it for around $5 or $6 before.
Well, it looks like since May of last year, they've started putting it at $3.99. I don't think it's worth it for $20 as just the single player experience. Just because it's such focused on multiplayer, and it's just not there anymore. Did you try the fan stuff? I know you were considering it, but sorry, I kind of blanked out at that point.
The fan stuff.
The community.
Oh no! I did not. No, I checked out.
I know you were thinking about it at one point, but
Yeah, I didn't. I fired up the multiplayer to just like look at the character class creation
Hmm.
and to see how like to make sure that you could still like you could play it with bots. But that was it. I didn't actually play a match either with bots or using whatever that community server
North Star.
mod is.
It's based on the mech, the name. Looks like it actually just went off sale as well for $4, like literally yesterday.
Yeah, but it goes on sale relatively frequently. I'm sure, it'll be on sale again
Hmm.
in a few months or so.
So yeah, uh, I think I agree with the B plus with some of the minor flaws, especially it kind of hurts to have that sequel hook and not have it resolved. I mean, there are rumblings about them doing another one in this universe, but with the absolute phenomenon that is Apex Legends, I mean, I know it's no Fortnite, but it's that battle royale money, right?
I think Apex Legends is number two. Like Fortnite's number one. I think Apex Legends passed
I,
PUBG for
I,
number two.
I gotta admit, I do not follow battle royale at all. Not since my favorite battle royale shut down. Yes, I'm still pine for Mario 35. What can I say?
Right.
Hey, it counts.
It does. No, you're right. 100%. I'm not arguing.
And I'm not good enough for the Tetris one. There's some hardcore people on Tetris.
Tetris 99.
Yeah.
So yeah, would recommend B plus
Yeah,
game.
especially on sale.
Yeah, for sure.
Not sure about full price. That's kind of
Unless you're going to buy it and play multiplayer, get the multiplayer mod. I mean, that's just what I'm going to call it, the multiplayer mod that, I don't think it's worth more than $10 unless your intent is to do that, in which case, whatever you want to buy it for, man, go for it. But definitely on Game Pass or definitely, for $4 or $5, 100%. That's a solid, 5 hours, like a good all day or weekend gaming session. Well, all day for me as a 30 something year old man with a whole bunch of shit to do, like 5 or 6 hours. It's like, man, that's a day's worth of gaming for me, but it's good, worth it. 2 thumbs up.
it would be nice to see the third one. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to our next game club for the month of January, which we only have is it 3 weeks
Yeah,
left?
3 weeks.
Yeah, we have 3 weeks left. Which is Disco Elysium. January, originally a 5-week month. I'm gonna have plenty of time to play this. Crunched it down a little bit, but I think, outside of the merits of potentially discussing the entire story start to finish, I think that there's plenty of time to get an idea for the mechanics and the feel of this game and the way that it tells a story.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be like your game, right?
I really enjoyed Disco Elysium. I haven't beaten it, but I did play it last year for a while. Actually, it was about a year ago was when I played it because I was gonna play it on my last trip to visit my in-laws. Um, so that's when I played it last. I never talked. I think I talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but this was always like a game club
Yeah, I think this is
possibility.
one you got me last year for like my birthday or Christmas,
Yeah,
and just never got around to playing it because right.
yeah. So yeah, Disco Elysium. Looking forward to talking about that one. I have a lot of things to say as someone who both writes and plays a ton of tabletop RPGs. I have some thoughts on the way that this game handles player choice that I've never seen any other game do, except an actual tabletop RPG with other humans. I'm very excited to talk about, oddly enough, the mechanics of this. But we'll get there in a few weeks. Yeah. So let's move on. We've got 2 news topics tonight to wrap us up. Our first news topic of the night: Sony reveals the PlayStation 5 accessibility controller.
Yeah, so we talked last year, I think it was, about the Microsoft or no, 2 years ago,
It's been 2 years, yeah.
uh, about the Microsoft one, and Sony finally jumped into this with Project Leonardo.
An
Uh,
interesting name.
yeah, I guess Donatello was busy.
What about Michelangelo?
He was too busy helping me with pizza.
Good man.
So a
He knows what's up.
customizable controller, um, sort of like the Microsoft Accessibility controller, but different. Primarily, this is a split gamepad, essentially, with customizable buttons that you can put on each one, and it's in like two rings with two giant thumbstick slash joysticks on them, and
Yeah.
interesting design.
It's a very interesting design, honestly. Like, I mean, really, I know podcast, not a visual medium. You really should look this up to
Yeah,
understand what it looks like because it's
yeah.
weird.
Look up Sony Project Leonardo.
I'm honestly, I can see my fire alarm for this room from where I'm sitting, and it makes me like it feels like, or it looks like a smoke alarm, smoke detector that they stuck buttons to the outside of. Like that's kind of the vision that I had. Like the best way I can explain this right off the top of my head. But you really should go look at this. It looks strange. But as someone who doesn't really deal with disabilities in this way, I don't have any mobility or dexterity issues. I don't have any difficulty holding a controller or using a mouse or a keyboard. Like perhaps the main reason that this looks so weird to me is that I've never had to try to navigate through the world as a disabled person. Maybe, to people who have probably, I'm assuming like it says they, got the help of experts to design this. It says in here, where'd it go? I just looked at it.
All the ones I've seen, uh, typically are meant to be played with one hand, which that's why this kind of catches me a little bit as an oddity, because it still feels like it's meant for two hands, and it's more for like people that are lacking dexterity versus being more disabled.
Yeah. So
But there are ports on it to add the switches like the Microsoft one.
yeah.
But it feels like this one is more of a all-in-one package, while the Microsoft one is meant to be a base unit for add-ons for a more customized controller.
Yeah.
So this one is more. I know you keep wanting to jump in, and I'll shut up now.
So
Go ahead.
it says here that the controller was designed with the help of accessibility experts and specialist organizations, including Able Gamers, Special Effect, and Stack Up. Able Gamers is the only one that I'm aware of. But yeah, I mean, this, like you're saying, this feels more like a specific all-in-one solution, whereas Xbox's thing was designed like they were from the beginning. They were like, we want this to be as accessible to as many people on as many platforms as possible. And there are configurations that exist out there to get the Xbox adaptive controller working with PlayStation, Switch, PC, other peripherals. All of their software for that is open source, so that developers can make configurations for basically any game or hardware that has a USB port on it, which is almost everything. Whereas, yeah, this looks like something. It's like, hey, you want to play PlayStation games and maybe do a few other things? Buy this controller, and that's fine. I think there's, that's fine.
Yeah, the big thing is that it feels like it's lacking the customability that the Microsoft aspect has. Because I'm looking at disability controllers or accessibility controllers on Google, and a lot of them are tying into the Microsoft one, and all of them are different. But this is also, expensive to set up. That might be where Sony is going at it with a more general entry level, and then doing a couple smaller add-ons to customize it to your ability.
Is there a price listed on here?
I didn't see one.
I didn't either. That doesn't mean that I didn't miss it, but that's why I asked. 550. No, oh wait, no. That's for the PSVR. Did I scroll down too far? Being mostly very quiet. Easy to cut out that silence. And I'm
Until
fucking
you
it up
started
now.
talking.
Right? I'm fucking it up now. That's the new PSVR price is $550. All right, how much is the Xbox adaptive controller? Oh shit, knocking stuff over on my desk again. Looks like you can buy the base Xbox adaptive controller pad for $100, brand new. I want to say when it released, it was double that. I feel like it was around $200 when it released. I would be shocked, amazed if Sony charged more than $150 for this. They are not, while the uses of this controller are positive, while it is a good thing that more people have access to hobbies that they can enjoy, Sony is releasing a product into a market that already has competition. And from a business perspective, they cannot, I just can't imagine them trying to sell this for more than $150, even if they lose money on it. Because if they do, everyone's going to say, well, just stick with the Microsoft one. You can get the same or more functionality for less money. And they might say that anyways, no matter what it costs, but like they're not first to market. They don't get to set the price point on this. So it's interesting.
But that's
as well.
also but it could also look at this and say, well, this is really the only option for somebody that has physical disabilities. It's either either this or the Microsoft version.
There's a few other third-party ones that exist, but there's no official Nintendo one.
Yet.
Yeah, yet. I don't know if Nintendo will.
I do really like the focus of more inclusivity with these controllers. I mean, I talked about whenever the Microsoft one came out that, I only see it as positive that this is an option.
Agreed.
However, I do still have a grain of salt with corporations pushing this because, right?
Yeah. What's interesting to me is the route that Sony went. So Microsoft went hardware. And even built in on the Xbox, there are some accessibility features that don't exist anywhere else. I forget what it's called, companion mode or backseat mode or something like that. But it's where that two people can use two controllers in order to play one character on Xbox as an accessibility function. And one person with disabilities can use that. Maybe if they have a hard time holding a controller but need access to all the buttons, or you can have a friend or a partner or a parent or something help. Xbox has all of these features built in on a hardware level, whereas Sony's focus on accessibility options has been on the software level. And they have been pushing more and more accessibility options in their first-party titles. So it's interesting to see the different routes that they have, at least initially, covered, whereas Sony is now also pursuing this hardware option. I wonder if they feel like they have to, or if this was always their plan to start with the software and then develop hardware for whatever reason. Xbox, though, also has some software things, although theirs is also in their store. Xbox's store, I'm not sure if it's on the Microsoft store or not, but I know that on the Xbox store on console, the digital store, they've got a long list of accessibility tags, and they're starting to require new developers, or whenever games are put on the store, like they're requiring developers to add accessibility tags, and they're adding certifications and specifications, like things that you have to meet. Unfortunately, it's still all self-reported, but they're adding things that criteria you have to meet. You can't just say your game is accessible because it has subtitles. You have to have actual accessibility features. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're very interested in all of this stuff and you like where our discussion is headed, but you want someone who's kind of, I guess you could say, the expert in this, go on YouTube and look up Laura Kate Dale she has a show that she does called Accessibility, and it's been running for 2 years now, maybe 3. And she talks in depth about accessibility features in gaming, both on a hardware and a software level. Like everything that I'm saying beyond like what came from this article, I am just repeating because I watched that series, Accessibility. And so that's where I've learned everything that I have about accessibility in gaming over the last couple of years. So if you're listening to us and you want to know more, that's probably the best resource I can point you to, other than maybe doing your own sort of in-depth research on the topic.
So, anything else, or outside of slight applause to Sony? Hopefully, it's every bit as good as it looks, at least in the press release. Because
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
But I mean, the Microsoft one has gotten rave reviews from users. So,
yeah, I will give credit where credit's due. This is a good thing.
I do hope it's every bit as flexible as the Microsoft one.
Yeah.
It doesn't look it to me, but they also don't show, just like how many ports it has. It does say that all the buttons are completely reprogrammable, and they can also have multiple functions for each button. So,
yeah, credit where credit's due. I think this is a good thing. Even if it, a flop or somehow fucked up and we don't know it yet, the fact that they're doing it, that, the fact that the other, Sony and Microsoft are the two overall biggest names in gaming. Like, I love Nintendo and Nintendo products as much as the next person, but it's Sony, or Microsoft,
Nintendo's still
Sony,
like in year 2000,
yeah,
especially with their online.
It's Microsoft, Sony, and then Nintendo. And really, you might be able to put some other companies in between. But as far as the console manufacturing goes, Microsoft and Sony are way ahead of Nintendo. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I do want to say, like, I don't want anybody to, like, come yell at me because I'm saying, like, Nintendo's garbage or something. I'm not. I think Nintendo has a fundamentally just different view of the gaming space. I think that Nintendo has always thought of video games as a toy. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just Microsoft and Sony, I think, view gaming and their consoles as, and this has been Microsoft marketing for a while now. Like the whole deal between behind the naming of the Xbox One, supposedly it's like you have one device for your living room. It's trying to be more than games. And I feel like Nintendo is very satisfying being like, no, we're just making video games. It's just video games, guys. Come on, let's have some fun. I know they're a ruthless corporation as much as the next one, but like in the marketplace, I think
if you step out of line with their copyright, whoo.
Yeah, but in the marketplace, I think that's where Nintendo falls. Where they place themselves in this whole deal. So, anyways, yeah, I don't have anything else to add. We'll see how it goes and come back to it in the future.
Maybe, right?
Yeah. At the very least, we'll probably mention it again, especially if it's a huge success or a huge failure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, our other news topic tonight is there is a new MechWarrior single-player game for PC and console in development. In a recent interview with No Guts, No Galaxy, which is the biggest BattleTech podcast, the developers, the Piranha Games president, Russ Bullock, was doing an interview, and the initial topic or the initial focus was asking about a possible MechWarrior Online 2 and where the MechWarrior / BattleTech license was probably going over the next few years, because Piranha Games only has exclusivity of it, or only has their contract until 2025. And kind of in the middle of this interview, he's like, oh yeah, we're working on one more MechWarrior 5 DLC and another MechWarrior single-player game that will come out before the licensing deal is up.
Yeah, hopefully the next one won't be as sad as MechWarrior 5 was on launch.
Yeah.
I know. The community have fixed it, but it shouldn't come down to that.
Well, so as with how many of these games go, I'm just going to call it MechWarrior 6, since we don't have a title or a name or anything yet.
MechWarrior 7, the search for MechWarrior 6.
If MechWarrior 6 releases and its game mechanics are exactly where MechWarrior 5 is with all of the DLC, it will be a much better start. It suffers from that weird way that pretty much any game, like most big games release as now, is like they're all secretly early access. And over the course of the first few patches and possibly DLC, they fix all the shit that's broken on release. Because even without mods, the base game, I've kept up with this. I've played the DLC. I'm too much of a BattleTech / MechWarrior fan. Obviously, anyone who's listened to the show for more than 5 minutes knows. I can't stay away. I can't. There's just so little content out there for my niche hobby that what I get, what I have is what I get, and so I have to make the best of it. And so I keep playing. Every time there's a new DLC, I buy it. I, reset my mods and I go for it. But I do play them stock a little bit first to see how the game has evolved. And right out the gate, if MechWarrior 6 releases exactly where MechWarrior 5 is at now, following all of its updates and its DLC, it'll be a good starting point. The game is not perfect. There are still issues, but they've added so much stuff and they fixed so much stuff, at least in terms of gameplay. My biggest issues are still the Mech Lab is terrible. Please fucking replace the Mech Lab. Put the MechWarrior Online Mech Lab in. It's not perfect, but that's way better than the MechWarrior 5 bullshit. Anyways, I digress from that. The speculation is that MechWarrior 6 is going to move the timeline forward because every DLC has moved the timeline forward. MechWarrior 5 takes place in between 3015 and 3025, which is the third and fourth succession wars in the campaign. Sort of the original era of BattleTech, humanity has bombed itself back into the Stone Age and all of that, and you're a mercenary commander with your battle mechs earning money and being cool. And then every DLC has pushed the timeline forward, and so we got the pushed into the early 3030s, new mechs, the Helm Memory Core, which kind of starts to reset the tech level. They did the
where they basically find essentially the Library of Congress, right?
Yeah, basically they find Library of Congress or Library of Alexandria or whatever, insert knowledge, lost knowledge base here. But then they do the fourth succession war, which is in the 3030s. That's where the most recent DLC has put the timeline at. And don't know what the next DLC is going to be. Probably, if they keep going, probably the War of 3039 is next, which is the last major conflict before the clan invasion in 3047, 3048. And so everyone is speculating that this next game is going to be the clan invasion, which is, by and large, the most liked era of BattleTech. Most of the player base who plays now was playing then, and that was everyone's kind of like golden age, like fond memories, and so that's what everyone thinks it's going to be. I hope it's going to be that. I love the clan invasion era. Can't wait to kill some dirty clanners, but I'm excited for it. I can't help myself. But the next tattoo I'm going to get is going to be a BattleTech tattoo. I've already had my artist friend, Lexi, I had her design it for me. And just like, it's on my list of things, like get some more art. I want to get some more art this year. I want to get a tattoo, and it's going to be a BattleTech tattoo. Can't help myself. That's my jam. That is my niche, hobby thing. I don't know if I have anything else I want to say. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say? Do you have any questions, or did you just put this in here?
Not really. I put it in there just for you to gush, really.
Yay.
I saw it, thought of you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's sort of like whenever I see big battle on Eve online, right?
Yep. Not as interested in Eve anymore, though. I mean, that's a lie. I'm still interested, but I don't play it, so.
Yeah, you're too busy running your cult.
Yep. 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 Yep.
You're being a dick in real life. You don't have time to be a dick online. Well, as
True.
much.
Very true. But yeah, that's it for our news topics this week then. Um Rage, how can people get in contact with us if they would like to do so?
Well, you can do so on Twitter with with the VGL podcast. You could drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at vglpodcast.podbean.com. Or you could just email us, good old fashioned email, vglpodcast@gmail.com.
Indeed. I normally we don't say what we're going to be doing in the next episode or two unless it's Game Club, but if I remember correctly, VGL Awards is next, yes?
Yes, we're going to have to figure out our nominees and fire up the fax machine.
Yep. Yep. I guess I better get on that, figuring out where I'm going to put stuff this year. But yeah, coming up is the VGL Awards, and then we'll have our regular show for the the rest of the year, I guess. Game Club and normal shenanigans. But if anybody wants to contact us specifically about the VGL Awards, throw in maybe your favorite games of 2022 or some weird asinine bullshit that you want mentioned on the show, your worst corporations of the year, whatever. What gaming studio did the shittiest thing with the NFTs?
Oh,
I've got a feeling NFTs are going to be on our VGL Awards this year for,
yeah.
biggest dick of the award a year or something. Fucking NFTs. But yeah, I just wanted to say that in case anyone does want to send in something specifically about that. We will be having the VGL Awards next week. Hey Rage, why don't you hit him with them socials of yours?
Well, I've been Caffeine Rage. You can maybe find me on Twitter. I've been silent since New Year's. But still gaming with CR if you wish to contact me, or you drop by Steam, Caffeine Rage over there. And you've been?
I have been Jared. You can find me on Twitter at JMA4707. The last month to 2 months, other than lurking and watching Elon Musk fall apart, which he stepped down from Twitter, and there's rumors that he's going to try to sell Twitter now after losing over $100 billion on this venture.
I got $5.
Yeah, I got $5. I'll take Twitter off your hands. I could do a better job than Elon Musk.
We could pull it. We could do $10.
Yeah, we could be co-owners of Twitter, and I mean, we could literally do nothing, and we would be doing a better job than Elon Musk. That's how bad he fucked up.
It does seem like the idea of Elon Musk being a modern day Edison is really come true. Where it's shown that he's kind of a dick and stealing people's ideas.
Yeah, he makes a couple of things, steals a bunch of people's ideas, and is an asshole.
He's every bit as an inventor as Steve Jobs was. He's marketing.
Yeah. Certainly, you need a good hype man, but your hype man can't run everything. Anyways, on Twitter, I mostly have been tweeting about BattleTech stuff and, porn. I've been on like Buff Girl Twitter a lot. And tabletop stuff. I tweet a lot about tabletop stuff here lately. But otherwise, you can also find me on Twitch. Not me personally. Twitch.tv/Runic Arts, where I, about every other week, run a Vampire the Masquerade tabletop game. We will be playing tomorrow night. I've already confirmed with everybody. Tomorrow night as of recording. I guess 2 days ago as of release of this episode. But we're supposed to be playing. I've got a very meaty episode planned for them. We're doing some character development. We're doing some existential crises. I'm going to see if I can make somebody else cry. It's going to be great. Otherwise, you can talk to me on Discord. Join our Discord, jarthur4707. You can also be my friend on Steam. I don't really chat with anybody on Steam anymore since all of my friends that I talk to on Steam, I'm in Discord servers with. But if you want to talk to me exclusively on Steam, you can do so. Won't cost you a dime. That's it.
As I was sitting here filling out my VGL award spreadsheet, I scroll all the way back up to the top. Once again, you can contact us, VGLpodcast at gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, game-related topics. You tweet us, VGL Podcast, or you drop by the Discord over at, which you can find a link to that over at VGLpodcast.podbean.com. Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this possible. You can find more about that at patreon.com/VGLpodcast. And our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kim McLeod. You find his work over at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye.